It began without sound, without warning, only strange readings on scientific instruments and the nervous chatter of space observatories picking up subtle irregularities. Earth's moon, long thought to be a quiet guardian in the sky, started vanishing. Behind something massive. Astronomers across the globe logged data they couldn't understand. A vast gravitational anomaly had entered orbit, one that blotted out stars and bent the ionosphere in ways human physics couldn't yet explain. First signs something was wrong came from lunar satellites going dark in synchronized silence. Within hours, GPS systems, long-range communications, and weather satellites began malfunctioning. Civilian panic hadn't set in yet, but behind the scenes, global intelligence agencies were in a frenzy. Governments gathered in emergency sessions. NORAD, ESA, and China's CNSA all confirmed what their radars now showed: something enormous, artificial, and foreign was moving just beyond geosynchronous orbit. At first, scientists speculated a rogue asteroid or a failed military experiment. But then came visual confirmation. Black, sharp-edged structures, colossal in size, too angular to be natural, drifting with coordinated intent. They formed into a tight formation that slowly eclipsed the moon. Earth had been visited. The alien fleet made no direct contact. No greetings, no ultimatums. Just presence. Ominous, still, watching. That silence was more terrifying than any threat. Humanity, long fascinated with the idea of first contact, now stood at its edge, and it wasn't the romanticized diplomatic arrival Hollywood promised. These ships weren't exploratory crafts. They looked like weapons. A sudden transmission, brief and chilling, shattered the silence. Broadcast in countless languages, patched together through unknown AI. This world will yield. Resistance is meaningless. Prepare for surrender. And then the assault began, not on people, not on cities, but on infrastructure. Satellites that served as the nervous system of Earth's technology were torn apart in coordinated strikes. International Space Station, destroyed. Military satellites, neutralized. Even commercial systems, banking, communication, internet backbones were paralyzed. The skies didn't light up in battle. No explosions painted the horizon. This was precision warfare, carried out with such cold efficiency that the human race barely had time to react. Earth's finest jet fighters scrambled but were unable to even reach escape velocity. Nuclear arsenals were rendered irrelevant, useless when the enemy hovered miles above Earth, outside the reach of traditional missiles. In this horrifying calm, Earth stood still. Crowds gathered in cities, staring upward, some in awe, others in terror. Social media collapsed under the weight of confusion. Rumors spread. This was the end, a divine reckoning, or something worse. But while the world panicked and leaders bickered about a response, a quiet alert was triggered in a forgotten military archive, a protocol that had never been needed before. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, an ancient failsafe stirred. As the alien fleet loomed above like gods ready to judge. Few knew that humanity had prepared for this possibility, not with hope, but with desperation. Deep in the darkest depths, something, built in secret, began to awaken. Humanity had not built a fleet, but they had built one ship. And it was unlike anything the stars had ever seen. The warning had already been given, cold, emotionless, and universal: prepare for surrender. But Earth didn't submit. Humanity, for all its internal divisions and chaotic history, stood frozen in stunned silence rather than immediate obedience. And in that pause, the aliens acted. Above the atmosphere, the alien armada moved with perfect coordination. Thousands of dark, spire-like ships realigned into an attack formation. These were not warships in the traditional human sense. They pulsed with alien energy, moving in elegant silence as if gravity itself obeyed them. And then the first strike began not with a boom, but with a silence that was more terrifying than sound. Every major satellite in low and mid-orbit was systematically erased in minutes. Beams of pure energy unseen to the naked eye ripped through Earth's sky like invisible blades. Space debris began to rain down, sparking streaks of fire in the upper atmosphere. The world's most vital surveillance, weather, communication, and defense satellites were gone before governments could even issue an official response. Power grids faltered. Communications blacked out in chunks. Major cities suffered MP waves that knocked planes from the sky and disabled entire hospitals and transportation systems. The assault was not random, it was surgical. Humanity wasn't being attacked to be conquered. It was being disarmed. In Washington, Beijing, Moscow, and other global military centers, commanders screamed into useless radios as early warning systems went blank. Nuclear launch systems were locked behind protocols requiring satellite positioning. With those satellites gone, the world's deadliest weapons were nothing more than expensive tombs for warheads. In the skies, human fighter jets scrambled toward high altitude, only to be effortlessly knocked out by anti-gravity pulses or shredded by drone-like interceptors from the alien fleet. No human aircraft made it within 100 kilometers of the enemy. Panic began to take hold in the population. Governments declared states of emergency. Some tried to explain it as a cosmic event, a foreign technology misunderstanding, but people weren't blind. Everyone saw the black shapes blotting out stars. They saw the meteoric flashes of destroyed satellites streaking above. Religious groups called it Judgment Day. Others demanded global unity. Conspiracy theories ran rampant. But the truth was simpler and more chilling. Earth had been caught unprepared by a civilization so advanced, so ruthlessly efficient, that humanity's might looked like a child's toy in comparison. And yet, deep beneath the waves, something stirred. In a long-forgotten chamber built under a tectonic shelf in the Pacific Ocean, a massive agiforward system came online. Lights flickered to life in a chamber no human had entered in 11 years. Code that had been dormant for over a decade executed its first command. Initialize Project Aegis. Built in secret, buried in shadow funding and black budget science, Project Aegis had been humanity's last resort, a weapon of such immense ambition that even world leaders feared completing it. A single warship, constructed using both human genius and salvaged alien technology from a crashed vessel found decades prior, waited silently. As Earth skies burned and leaders prayed. A deep rumble echoed beneath the ocean floor. Humanity had one card left to play. Not a fleet, not a miracle. Just one ship, but built to face gods. Far beneath the churning waves of the Pacific Ocean, a hidden facility roared to life. Long thought abandoned, it was now the beating heart of humanity's last hope, Project Aegis. As the alien fleet tightened its grip around Earth, the ground beneath the ocean floor trembled not from tectonic shifts, but from awakening power. Inside a massive pressure-sealed chamber carved into the rock, a machine stirred. Not just a machine, a warship, the Sovereign. It had slept for over a decade in complete silence, powered down, protected from global politics and public fear. Even most world leaders didn't know it still existed. Sovereign was the result of decades of desperation. After the crash of a small alien scout vessel in Siberia 30 years ago, a secret coalition of scientists, engineers, and military tacticians had reverse-engineered every scrap they could find. What they built wasn't meant for show. It was a prototype, an experiment, a gamble. The Sovereign was unlike any craft built by human hands. Shaped like a sleek blade, hundreds of meters long, its hull was forged from carbon-weaved alloys mixed with alien materials that bent heat and radar signatures. The exterior was matte black, seemingly drinking in light, and its core systems ran on a hybrid fusion gravity drive never tested at full capacity. As its main ICOD name Athena came online, the ship began to hum with potential. Systems activated one by one. Plasma shielding, operational. Railgun coils and magnetic cannon arrays, online. Swarm drone bay, fully stocked. Cloaking systems, 87% functionality. Quantum computing and battlefield prediction software, stable. Athena's voice echoed through the command chamber, empty except for a handful of technicians who had remained in cryosleep, awakened by the emergency signal. She spoke with calm precision. Threat level Alpha confirmed. Global defense breach. Initiating planetary defense protocol. Commander Alara Voss, former test pilot and one of the few humans trained to interface directly with the Sovereigns. Neural command system took her place in the central bridge. She had once walked away from the project, disillusioned with governments who feared it more than the enemies it was meant to fight. But now, there were no politicians to stop her. Within minutes, Sovereign began its ascent. The ocean above it cracked and boiled as the ship tore through with barely a tremor, guided by gravitational thrusters and inertial dampeners. Fish and sea creatures scattered as a dark leviathan rose from the abyss, a machine built for one purpose: survival. Satellite remnants and orbiting cameras captured it first, a massive, silent shape bursting from the sea near the Mariana Trench, its body outlined in blue pulses of energy. On Earth, billions stared at their screens in disbelief. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity saw a weapon that didn't belong to the enemy. As the Sovereign climbed into the atmosphere, punching through the troposphere in seconds, Earth's skies began to shift. The clouds didn't just part, they were pulled aside as if afraid. Lightning crackled around the warship like it was commanding the storm itself, and above, the alien armada paused. They had watched Earth panic, crumble, and fail. They had not prepared for this. One ship, one final answer. Humanity had just entered the fight. As the Sovereign surged through the atmosphere, the world held its breath. The skies had been dominated by the alien fleet for days silent, black monoliths hanging like tombstones above Earth. But now, something new had entered the sky, and it wasn't running or hiding. Thunder cracked violently as the Sovereign broke through the cloud barrier. Wrapped in gravitational shielding and plasma containment fields, it soared higher with unnatural grace, trailing streaks of luminous energy across the heavens. The clouds split open like a curtain, revealing Earth's answer to the invasion. To Earth's citizens below, it looked like a mythical creature, part machine, part storm. And to the aliens above, it was something far worse, unexpected: the enemy. Ships, once in flawless formation, hesitated for the first time. Their targeting arrays flickered. Their predictive algorithms faltered. They hadn't accounted for any threat of this scale. To them, Earth was a backward, fragmented species with crude tools and no capacity for resistance. The emergence of the Sovereign shattered that illusion. The alien fleet attempted to regroup. Hundreds of sleek vessels rearranged into a defensive pattern. Smaller drone ships darted forward, scanning the Sovereign's energy signature, trying to identify weaknesses. But they found only anomalies. To their instruments, the ship didn't make sense. It defied known energy emissions, moved against gravitational logic, and radiated a hybrid frequency of human and non-human origin. Commander Alara Voss stood on the bridge of the Sovereign, her neural interface fully synchronized. She wasn't flying the ship, she was the ship. Through Athena, the onboard AI, she could feel every movement, sense every threat, anticipate every strike. The Sovereign wasn't just a weapon, it was an extension of her mind. The first strike didn't come from the aliens. It came from Earth. Sovereign charged a directed energy cannon integrated into its core, a weapon reverse-engineered from the crash decades ago. In one thunderous burst of light, a beam cut through the void, striking the lead alien destroyer. It didn't explode, it simply collapsed in on itself, folding and vanishing into a singularity of light. The alien fleet froze dead in their countless wars across galaxies. They had seen resistance, but never had a primitive world return fire with such precision and such devastating results. Their formation fractured. Ships veered off course. Signals jammed. What was supposed to be a show of dominance became a moment of uncertainty. And then came the message from the Sovereign, relayed in the same universal language the aliens had used to demand surrender. This world will not yield. It was more than defiance. It was a declaration. The aliens, now scrambling to adapt, launched their own attack. Energy bolts, plasma missiles, and gravity pulses filled the space around Earth's orbit. But the Sovereign moved like a phantom. It twisted through the storm, countering each strike with elegant violence, using advanced shielding, warp microshifts, and swarm drones that danced through enemy fire like birds of prey. For the first time, the invaders understood. Earth had birthed something terrible. Something designed in the shadow of fear, forged in silence. And now fully awake dot above the planet, the sky had opened. And what came through made the stars themselves hold their breath. The stillness that had gripped the alien fleet was broken in an instant. Their commanders, once confident in their overwhelming superiority, snapped into action. War protocols deployed. Attack vectors recalculated. Thousands of alien vessels surged forward in a synchronized assault meant to eliminate the unexpected threat. But the Sovereign didn't retreat. It didn't falter. It advanced. Commander Elara Voss remained locked into the ship's neural interface, her thoughts flowing seamlessly into action. She saw not just the battle, but every trajectory, every incoming projectile, every weakness in the alien formation. The ship's AI, Athena, amplified her cognition processing data, predicting movements, countering strikes. Together, they became something the galaxy had never seen, a mind-machine hybrid, capable of strategic perfection. The first wave of alien drones launched toward the Sovereign like a storm of metallic hornets. Each was equipped with microwarp drives, antimatter payloads, and adaptive targeting systems. But Sovereign released its own answer swarm drones, crafted with a combination of alien code and human ingenuity. They moved like intelligent lightning, intercepting enemy drones mid-flight, tearing through them with laser-edged wings and electromagnetic bursts in the chaos. The Sovereign darted between capital ships, leaving trails of gravitational distortion. In its wake, alien vessels fired plasma lances and kinetic spikes, but the warship shifted through microfolds in space, blinking in and out of conventional gravity. One enemy cruiser fired a planet-killer charge designed to glass entire surfaces, but Sovereign caught it in a gravity snare and hurled it back into the attacker's core. The explosion consumed 6 enemy ships in a fiery shockwave. On Earth, the remaining communication networks had stabilized just enough to broadcast portions of the battle. The world watched in awe, horror, and renewed hope. News anchors wept on air. Children stared at the skies, whispering prayers or gasps. What had begun as the collapse of civilization now flickered with the first sparks of resistance. The alien fleet adjusted tactics. They deployed phase specters, cloaked entities, that operated in overlapping dimensions, meant to bypass conventional defenses. But Sovereign's quantum matrix tracked them by distortion patterns, countered with pulses that tore through layers of space-time, unraveling the specters like threads in a web. And still, Sovereign pressed forward not to escape, but to break. The fleet from within it charged into the heart of the formation, unleashing its most devastating weapon. The Singularity Lance, a contained black hole projectile. Fired from its main cannon, it speared through the flagship of the alien command, collapsing the vessel into a tier of nothingness. The remaining ships, suddenly leaderless and disoriented, hesitated. That was all the Sovereign needed. In a final sweeping maneuver, it deployed a chain reaction of EMP bursts and gravitic pulses, disabling propulsion systems and frying guidance networks. Ships began to drift, crash into each other, or spiral out of control. The invincible alien fleet was broken. Some ships attempted to flee, retreating into deep space. The Sovereign did not pursue. It hovered in orbit, burning like a second sun in the sky, broadcasting one final message across every frequency. This is Earth. We are not prey. We are the storm. Humanity had not just survived. It had won a war no one believed it could fight. The smoke of orbital battle had not yet cleared when the alien fleet began to flee. Not in formation, not with dignity, but in chaos. Dozens of their once mighty ships limped through space, some crippled, others burning, all reeling from a conflict they never expected to lose. Sovereign didn't give chase. It didn't need to. Its purpose had never been domination, it was survival through undeniable strength. The enemy had learned what Earth was capable of. And now the galaxy would too. Hovering in low orbit, Sovereign radiated silent power. Its hull shimmered with residual energy, its drone bays slowly closing, and its gravity stabilizers settling after the monumental battle. To the people of Earth, it was a symbol terrifying and magnificent, a ghost from a future they hadn't dared imagine. From its bridge, Commander Alara Voss stood before the projection chamber as Athena prepared the final transmission. Their mission was no longer just defensive. Earth had to make itself understood in a universe where power was language and silence was an invitation to conquest. The transmission went out in every frequency, in every dialect the alien fleet had used, translated and enhanced by Sovereign's AI. To those who would conquer Earth, we are not defenseless. We are not primitive, we are prepared. We do not seek war, but if war is brought to us, we will end it. Remember what happened here. It was not a declaration of war, it was a warning. Not just to the defeated invaders, but to any force watching from afar, hidden behind stars and shadowed moons. Earth, for the first time in its short cosmic life, had spoken clearly. Back on the surface, reactions rippled across every corner of the planet. The streets of once panicked cities now echoed with cheers. Crowds gathered around screens replaying the battle footage in endless loops. People wept, hugged strangers, and raised flags, not of one nation, but of the world. This wasn't just a human victory. It was a human unification. Earth had almost been wiped out, and it had stood back up not by the might of any single power, but through a creation built from shared fear and hidden cooperation. In secret bunkers, world leaders, some still shaken, some stunned, began emergency discussions. What would happen now? Was the war over, or had it just begun? Alara Voss stood at the center of the Sovereign, alone but not afraid. She had piloted humanity's last hope through the fires of apocalypse and emerged with the stars in her eyes. She knew what was coming. Now that Earth had revealed its capabilities, the galaxy wouldn't ignore them. Enemies, allies, traitors, and empires would come. But next time, Earth would meet them with confusion. It would meet them on its terms. The Sovereign drifted in orbit, not as a weapon in use, but as a sentinel, a message cast in steel and starlight. Humanity had gone from prey to predator, from frightened children of Earth to bold voices among the stars. And with one ship, one battle, and one stand, they had carved a place in the cosmos. The sky had opened. And now the universe was listening.